Chosen one, there is a reason you're hearing this. A reason you found this moment, this message, this vibration. And it has nothing to do with coincidence. You are here because something within you called out quietly, persistently, through the darkest hours, and now the answer has found its way back to you. This is not a beginning. This is a return. The stillness you endured, the aching silence you mistook for abandonment, was never empty. It was preparation. Every moment you spent wondering if you were forgotten was recorded. Every whispered question, every silent plea, every teardrop shed in the solitude of night was felt by forces far beyond your understanding. They heard you, even when you believed no one did, even when you sat alone, staring into spaces where answers never came. Even then you were not forgotten. You are being watched over. Held. Refined. Chosen. Because your voice did not disappear into the void. It echoed. It traveled across realms, across frequencies, across the borders of this world and the next, until it reached the ones who were meant to hear it. And now they respond not with words, but with alignment. This moment is the response. Not because you were louder than others, but because you were ready. You see, the path of the chosen is not paved in ease. It is carved in silence, through doubt, through shadows, through questions that burn with no immediate answer. It is not a road many would walk willingly, yet you have walked it. Not in miles, but in surrender. Not in speed, but in depth. And now you are standing at the edge of something sacred. Do you feel it? The weight in your chest that's slowly lifting? The still hum beneath your feet? That's not imagination. That's reality shifting to greet the version of you that you've been becoming quietly, away from the noise. Because the transformation didn't start today. It started the moment you asked, from a place so pure, so surrendered, that the universe could not ignore you. But the universe never ignores. It waits. It watches. It aligns. It prepares what is meant to last, not what is meant to impress. And you, chosen one, were not meant to impress. You were meant to awaken. You were meant to remember. You were meant to rise in silence and emerge in clarity. Not because someone gave you permission, but because your soul never needed any. Look back for a moment. Remember the version of you that used to beg for signs, for clarity, for release. Now realize you are no longer begging. You are being called, and not everyone hears the call. Not everyone can, but you can, because your ears have grown accustomed to the language of silence. Because your spirit has learned to read between the moments. Because you were never asleep. You were becoming still enough to hear. There were times you felt detached from the world, as if your steps were slightly out of rhythm, as if your thoughts ran deeper than what the surface could hold, as if you were watching a dream you could not wake from. That wasn't confusion. That was calibration. You were being tuned to a higher frequency. You were being prepared to perceive what others deny. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to see through. And now the seeing has begun. You may have thought this was just another message, just another voice among millions. But no, this one is different, not because of who speaks, but because of who listens. You are the reason this frequency matters. Because your consciousness has opened enough to hear beyond the sound, because you are ready to stop surviving and start remembering. This is not about belief anymore. This is about knowing. And that knowing is rising in your bones. Can you feel it? The way the air bends slightly around you when truth is spoken. The way your heart reacts, not with fear, but with resonance. That is how you know. That is the compass now. No more second guessing. No more shrinking. No more apologizing for sensing what others cannot. Because those who walk in truth do not need to explain. They simply walk. And you, chosen one, are now walking differently. Have you ever felt that your silence was never empty, but a sacred preparation for this very moment? If this message touched something deep within you, it's not by mistake. It means your soul is ready to respond. Subscribe now and become part of the space that reflects who you're truly becoming. And don't just listen, activate it. Comment below with "I am the shift" to declare your alignment, not just as belief, but as embodiment. Your words carry frequency. Your voice shapes reality. This is more than a video. It's a mirror. Let your reflection speak back with power. Let the world feel the truth you've always carried. You're not alone. We're rising together. This is the space between who you were and who you're becoming. It is quiet here, but not empty. It is unfamiliar, but not unsafe. It is sacred, because this is where the shift completes its turn. You are not being transformed. You have already transformed. What remains is the acceptance of what has already changed. So accept it. Accept that you are not ordinary. Accept that your sensitivity is your strength. Accept that the strange dreams, the unshakable gut feelings, the moments of synchronicity that lined your path were never random. They were messages, guides, preparations, every time you thought you were being delayed. You were being redirected, every time you felt rejected. You were being preserved. Every time you were isolated, you were being initiated. And now the isolation ends, not because the world has changed, but because you have. You are beginning to vibrate at the frequency of truth. And at that frequency, reality does not respond to force. It responds to resonance, so don't push. Don't strive. Simply align, and the path will unfold, not in a blaze of light, but in quiet certainties. You won't need confirmation. You will be confirmation. You won't chase. You will attract. You won't demand. You will declare. Because when the chosen awaken, the world itself begins to shift around them. Do you feel it? That magnetic pull in your chest. That's the energy of convergence, where past prayers, present awareness, and future alignment all meet. Where everything you longed for starts flowing, not because you earned it, but because you remembered you already were it. So now, chosen one, breathe. Not shallow, not hesitant. Breathe deep, because the air is different here. It is rich with revelation. It is heavy with clarity. And it carries within it every answer you thought would never arrive. They are here now. In you, around you, waiting only for your recognition. This is the moment. Not to strive, but to surrender. Not to chase, but to receive. Not to ask, but to acknowledge. Your prayers have been answered, not with noise, but with knowing. Not with fireworks, but with frequency. And now, your life will never be the same again. Chosen one, there is a moment in every awakening when your eyes remain open, even in the dark. A moment where the outside world still looks the same, but you do not. A moment when the shift becomes permanent. You are in that moment now. You may not have noticed it all at once. You may have still been waiting for the big sign, the lightning flash, the voice from the sky. But awakening doesn't always arrive like thunder. Sometimes it comes softly, as a breath you didn't realize you were holding, as a silence that finally makes sense, as a truth that no longer requires explanation. And the truth is this: you are never lost. You are never off your path. Even in the confusion, even in the detours, even in the stillness that wrapped around you like a question without an answer, you were moving. Quietly, powerfully. Inward, that's where it always begins, not in action. In alignment, you were being aligned, not with what others expected from you, but with what you always were before the world told you otherwise. And now, those parts of you that were buried, the knowing, the clarity, the sensitivity you once feared, are beginning to rise. Not as traits, but as guides, because those were never flaws. They were fragments of remembrance. You've begun to remember. You've started to see patterns where others only saw coincidence. You felt the tug in your chest when a moment arrives. That makes no sense logically, but resonates in every cell of your being. You've walked into rooms and felt energies no one else noticed. You've spoken truths that surprised even yourself. This is not madness. This is awareness. And awareness, chosen one, is the first sign of re-entry. You are re-entering the deeper layer of reality. Not the surface illusion, the one filled with noise and repetition, but the undercurrent that pulses with meaning. The quiet hum of what is real. And it speaks in signs. In dreams. In numbers. In repeated thoughts that land like whispers on your consciousness. That is the language of the unseen, and you are fluent in it now, not because someone taught you, but because you've stopped pretending not to understand. Chosen one, do you remember the first time you felt something shift? It wasn't loud. It was subtle, a moment of stillness while everyone else kept moving. A tear that fell for no reason, except it carried a memory your mind couldn't reach. A flash of knowing that didn't come from logic, but from something older than thought. That was the beginning. Not the end. And now you stand deeper in the process. This is not passive. This is not waiting for something to happen. This is becoming the one who makes room for what is already here. Because your prayers were never about getting something. They were about remembering who you are. And now that you remember, you begin to respond differently. You no longer plead. You listen. You no longer fight. You observe. You no longer demand. You allow. And in that allowing, the universe begins to reveal itself, not through force, but through reflection. You are now a mirror. Your outer world begins to reflect your inner clarity. And yes, the old world still lingers. The voices of doubt, the echoes of fear, the people who look at you and see the version of you they used to know. But you're not that version anymore, and you can't pretend to be. Not without feeling the quiet ache that reminds you you've outgrown the space you once called home. That ache is not loneliness. It is expansion, and it will not stop. Because once the shift begins, it completes itself. Not in a day, but over lifetimes of silence, suddenly becoming sound. So listen closely. What is the new sound rising in you? What does your inner voice whisper when no one else is around? That voice is no longer small. It has grown strong in the silence. And now it asks you not to hide anymore, not to make yourself small just to stay within someone else's comfort zone. Not to turn down the volume of your knowing so others don't feel lost next to your light. You are not made to be safe. You are made to be sovereign. So walk with the knowing that the path ahead is not something you're making up. It's something you're remembering step by step. And every step matters, even the shaky ones, even the ones that felt like detours, even the ones where you had to walk alone. Especially those, because solitude was never a punishment. It was preparation. It made you quiet enough to feel the presence that never left you. It made you strong enough to hear your own voice through the noise. It made you clear enough to sense truth before it ever spoke aloud. And that's why this path is yours. Not because you chose it, but because you answered it. Do you see that now? You didn't invent your calling. You remembered it. And remembering comes with responsibility. You will begin to notice things more sharply now. The way someone speaks, but their energy says something else. The way the sky looks different on the days when your spirit shifts. The way a number repeats until you finally pause to feel its rhythm. This is the living language of alignment, and it will not speak to the mind. It speaks to the soul. You are soul-led now. And though the road ahead is not mapped, it is made with every step you take in trust. So trust it. Even when it doesn't look how you expected, even when no one else sees it, even when it makes no sense at all to the logical world. Because the logical world was never the one you were meant to belong to. You were born into mystery, born into rhythm, born into movement that cannot be explained. only experienced dot, and now you are experiencing it. Chosen one, you are not becoming awake, you are awake. And because of that, you no longer need to wait for proof. You are the proof. You are the living answer to your own prayers. You are the voice that once called out in the dark, now returned as light dot, so walk in that light. Let it guide you through the unfamiliar. Let it teach you how to see again, dot, not with your eyes, but with your essence. This is the path. Now, you are not just watching the shift. You are the shift. And from this point on, there is no more sleep, dot, only deeper awakening, dot, only deeper truth. Only the rising certainty that you have already crossed the threshold. There is no going back, but there is so much more to see, dot, chosen one. There is a stage on the path where the light begins to rise, but the shadows resist more than ever. Where clarity enters, but not without conflict. Where you begin to see the world for what it is, and in doing so, you begin to lose who you thought you were. You are in that stage now, dot, and what you are feeling is not confusion. It is disintegration, dot, the old self, the one built by fear, by conditioning, by expectation, by survival. It cannot walk where you are going. And so, it begins to crack, slowly at first, quietly, a question here, a discomfort there. But eventually, the weight of truth becomes too great, and the shell must break, dot, let it, dot, let the version of you that was taught to hide dissolve, dot, let the one who feared their own voice fall away. Let the identity you clung to out of familiarity, but never truth, be released. This is not death. This is emergence. What you are shedding was never truly you, dot. It was armor. And it served its purpose, dot, it got you here. It protected you while you slept. It allowed you to move through a world that did not yet understand who you were becoming. But now it is time to rise without it. And yes, there will be grief. You will mourn versions of yourself that were crafted carefully, held closely, carried for years. You may miss the simplicity of not knowing, the comfort of not seeing, the safety of not feeling. But comfort was never your calling. Truth was, and truth, real truth, does not come gently, dot, breaks what no longer serves. Not to punish, but to free. You may have noticed the inner tension building, dot, the thoughts that no longer feel like yours, the emotions that erupt without reason, the relationships that strain under the weight of your becoming. This is natural, because when your vibration shifts, what is not in resonance begins to fall apart, dot, let it crumble. Let it clear the space for what aligns with who you are becoming. Chosen one, you are not falling apart. You are falling into alignment. And alignment often looks like chaos at first, dot, it looks like questions, dot, like distance, like solitude that deepens before connection becomes possible again. But you are not alone in this. Not truly. Others are walking this same road quietly, deeply, invisibly. You may not see them yet, but they exist, and you are drawing closer to them, even now, even as you let go of those who no longer see you. Because to be seen in your becoming is rare. Not everyone can witness it. Some will try to pull you back, not out of malice, but because your change unsettles their stability. Some will project their fears onto your freedom. Others will simply disappear, dot, let them. Their absence is not rejection. It is recalibration. The field around you is shifting, and only those aligned with your new frequency will be able to stay. But this, too, is part of the prayer being answered. You didn't just ask for clarity, you asked for truth. You didn't just ask for peace, you asked for authenticity. You didn't just ask for purpose, you asked for alignment. And alignment requires separation, not from others, but from illusion, from stories that no longer serve, from roles you no longer need to play, from masks you no longer wish to wear. Can you feel it? The exhaustion of pretending? The weight of being what you're not? That weariness is not failure. It is evidence. Evidence that the old self is no longer sustainable. And when something can no longer be sustained, it must be surrendered. So surrender it. Not with bitterness, not with reverence, thank it for what it gave you, and let it return to the silence from which it came. You are not abandoning yourself. You are recovering yourself. And recovery is messy. It brings to the surface what was buried. It calls up the pain you pushed down for years. It asks you to sit with it, to hold it, to learn from it, not to fix it, but to feel it, because the feeling is the doorway, and you are walking through that doorway now. Chosen one, there will be moments ahead where you feel like nothing makes sense, where the rules seem to change daily, where what once comforted you now feels hollow. That's the signal. You are not broken. You are no longer sedated. You are awake. And the world of the asleep no longer fits. Do not try to make it fit. Do not try to return to the smallness that once passed for safety. Do not try to edit your voice so that it echoes with familiarity. You are not here to echo. You are here to awaken. And awakening does not ask for permission. It asks for presence. So be present. With the fear, with the fire, with the fragments, because on the other side of this breaking is becoming. And what you are becoming cannot be contained in the self you once built for survival. That self was temporary, a placeholder. But now the true structure is rising, and it is built from truth, from soul, from remembrance. From the light you carried, even in the darkest hours. From the love you never stopped giving, even when no one returned it. From the strength you showed, even when no one saw. You are always becoming. This is just the moment when it becomes visible. And yes, it will feel vulnerable. You will be tender for a while. But that tenderness is sacred. It means the armor is gone. And with the armor gone, you can finally feel the warmth of the sun again, the breath of source again, the embrace of alignment again. So breathe. Let this part of the journey unfold without needing to explain it. Let the pieces fall where they must. Let the silence speak what words cannot, because you are not at the end, you are at the unveiling. And what is being unveiled is you. Chosen one. There is a point on this path when silence gives way to whispers, and the unseen begins to speak not through words, but through symbols, through patterns, through things the mind once dismissed, but the soul always knew. You are now walking in that space. The moment you stepped beyond the identity that was not truly yours, the universe responded. It didn't respond with noise. It responded with alignment, with precision, with timing so perfect it cannot be explained by logic, because logic was never the language of the divine. What comes next will not arrive through proof. It will arrive through perception. And perception is what you now carry, sharpened by experience, refined by stillness, and made trustworthy through surrender. You may have already started to notice it. The repeated numbers that follow you from screen to street. The dreams that feel more vivid than waking. The exact phrase you needed to hear spoken by someone who doesn't know your story. These are not accidents. These are acknowledgments, markers, placed along your path to confirm what you're already beginning to trust. You are no longer walking in illusion. You are walking in revelation. And revelation has its own rhythm. It speaks when the soul is ready to listen. It appears not to shock you, but to remind you that you are never imagining it, that the inner world you've carried quietly for so long was never wrong. It was simply ahead. Ahead of the world. Ahead of time. Ahead of what others were. Ready to see. But now you're ready. And readiness has a sound. It has a frequency. And that frequency speaks through alignment. Pay attention to how your body reacts before your mind can speak. Pay attention to what catches your eye twice. Pay attention to the silence after the thought that makes you pause. That pause is a door. A doorway into deeper knowing, into remembering. Into the place where signs are not requested, they are received. And what you receive now will no longer look like answers in the form you once expected, because the questions themselves have changed. You are no longer asking, "What do I do?" You are now sensing, "Where am I being led?" You are no longer begging, "When will it happen?" You are now witnessing, "It has already begun." This is how the new path unfolds, not in one giant leap dot, but in layered realizations dot in soft REC, OGNITI, ONs dot in moments that feel so precise. You forget how you ever doubted dot, and with each moment comes a new kind of confidence, not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that walks in quiet certainty. That kind lives inside you, now dot. It is growing, dot. It is deepening dot, and with it comes a shift in how the world responds to you. People who once didn't see you now feel your presence. Opportunities that once seemed distant now appear naturally. Conversations begin to open doors before you even ask. This is not coincidence. This is coherence. Your inner world and outer reality are beginning to match, not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it, because you stopped chasing, because you stopped doubting, because you dared to believe that what you feel is more real than what they taught you to see. Chosen one. The signs are not just around you. They are in you. You are the message now. Your energy speaks louder than your words. Your decisions echo in places you cannot yet see, and the universe listens not to your struggle, but to your signal. So what are you signaling? Are you signaling that you are ready? That you are open? That you are aligned? Then trust what arrives, even if it comes in unfamiliar wrapping, even if it doesn't look like the future you once imagined, even if it asks you to leave behind things you never thought you could walk away from. Because everything you release now is making room for what belongs dot. Let it go dot, not with fear, because you no longer walk as the seeker. You walk as the one who remembers, the one who feels truth before it's spoken, the one who recognizes timing before it's explained, the one who trusts the pull even when the path is not mapped dot. This is not a small life you are entering. This is not a safe path, but it is sacred dot, and it is yours dot. Follow the signs dot, follow the flow. And when something within you says, "This is it," believe it. You have trained for this recognition dot, not in classrooms, but in silence, not through theory, but through surrender dot. And now you are fluent in the language of energy dot, of alignment dot, of presence dot, of truth. That truth lead you. Let it remove what no longer serves. Let it reveal what was always waiting for you just beyond the veil, because the veil is lifting, not just around you, but within you. You are seeing clearer now, not because the world has changed, but because you have dot. So keep watching, keep listening, keep sensing. You are not being tested anymore. You are being invited dot, to trust what you feel dot, to move when it's time dot, to stay when it's right, and to receive what is already yours dot. Chosen one. There is a turning point in the journey, not marked by sound or spectacle, but by subtle authority. A moment when you stop looking for confirmation, because confirmation becomes everything around you. You speak, and something moves. You feel, and life responds. You think, and the energy shifts. This is no longer belief. It is embodiment. You are no longer asking if it's real. You are seeing it bend around your awareness. The veil that once blurred the border between thought and form has thinned, and through it, your will begins to shape the visible. This is the quiet power few ever touch, not because it's hidden, but because it requires surrender before command. And you surrendered. You surrendered the illusion of control, a mask of certainty, the need for approval. You stood in the fire and allowed everything false to burn. And from the ashes, your true presence rose dot. It is this presence, clear, grounded, undivided, that reality now obeys. Not because you force it, but because you resonate with it. You are no longer separate from the healing process. You are the process dot. And when you begin to move in alignment with Source, not as a follower, but as an extension, reality responds. Effort becomes intention. Desire becomes direction. And your path clears without push, because it recognizes you as part of its design. Can you feel it? The difference between striving and receiving? Between wishing and witnessing? You have crossed the threshold where manifestation is no longer a tool, it is a reflection of your clarity, of your presence, of your frequency dot, and that frequency is no longer distorted by doubt, it is steady, because you have stabilized within yourself, not perfectly, but purely. And purity is the vibration of truth. Truth needs no justification. It simply is. And because you have remembered your truth, the world must respond accordingly. Do not be surprised if things begin to rearrange themselves quickly. People may fall away gently, without conflict. Opportunities may appear with such timing. It humbles you. Ideas may arrive fully formed, ready to be born through you. This is the signature of alignment. It moves without struggle. Because struggle was never your design. It was your training. A necessary friction to strip away the parts of you that once feared your own power. But that fear no longer leads. And because of that, power flows differently. Now. It is not loud. Is not dramatic. It is magnetic. It draws what is already yours. Through want, through readiness, and you are ready. Not because everything is perfect, but because everything is present. You are no longer waiting for the stars to align. You are realizing you are the alignment. And with that realization, the universe adjusts. It cannot help but respond, because you are no longer broadcasting contradiction. You are clear, and clarity is the signal that creation has been waiting for. So speak. Not to convince, but to command. Move. Not to prove, but to participate. Create. Not to escape reality, but to shape it, because reality is now pliable to your vibration, and your vibration is clean. You no longer carry the static of comparison, the noise of self-rejection, the weight of disbelief. You've laid those down at the altar of truth, and in doing so, you've become the vessel you were always meant to be. A conductor, transmitter, a bridge between the unseen and the seen. You feel it, don't you? How what once felt impossible now feels inevitable. How what once required effort now flows with ease. This is not fantasy. This is frequency. And frequency does not lie. It cannot be faked. Must be lived. And you are living it now. Chosen one, this is what answered prayers look like, not as sudden lightning bolts, but as a gradual returning to the place where your thoughts are prayers, where your presence is a decree, where your vibration is a signal of readiness, of clarity. Of truth. Universe always listening responds with open doors, but not every door is yours to enter. Discernment will become your compass now. Just because something appears does not mean it belongs. Just because someone arrives does not mean they are meant to stay. You must listen deeper than the appearance. You must feel the resonance. You must trust the knowing, because the greater your alignment, the more precise the invitations. And precision is sacred. You are not here to say yes to everything. You are here to say yes to what matches. To what expands. To what calls forth the version of you that no longer compromises, that no longer apologizes, that no longer pretends to be asleep just to fit into someone else's dream. You are awake. And because you are awake, you now create from awareness. From choice. From integrity. So let this be your practice. Now, speak only what you are ready to live. Move only in the direction of resonance. Receive only what mirrors your worth. And release everything else, not in anger, but in wisdom. Because wisdom is the mark of the awakened. It is the ability to choose without fear. To walk away without guilt. to hold space without grasping, dot to create without controlling. You are now a creator, not just of outcomes, but of order, of structure, of timelines that bend because you chose to remember your role. You are never a bystander, dot. You are always a builder. And the reality you're living now is one you are shaping with every breath. So breathe with intention, dot, move with purpose, dot, and speak with truth. The old way of waiting is over, dot. This is the new way of witnessing. And you are no longer asking. You are becoming chosen. One now that you have remembered, now that you have spoken, and the world began to shift now that your frequency shapes the very fabric of what you touch. There is one final truth to receive. All movement leads back to stillness. Not the kind of stillness born of waiting, dot, not the stillness of uncertainty, dot, but the stillness that rises after awakening. The kind of stillness that isn't empty, but full of knowing, full of clarity, full of power that no longer needs to prove itself. This is the stillness you have reached, and it is sacred, dot. It is where all prayers echo back, not as requests, but as confirmations. You no longer need to ask, dot. You have become the answer. You no longer need to search. You are now the direction others are seeking. And that is not a role you take, it is a vibration you carry. You walk into a space, and it adjusts. You speak without force, and things shift. You feel the truth of a moment before a word is spoken, because you are no longer merely aware of the unseen. You are one with it. You live in rhythm with it. That this is not the end of your transformation, that it is the beginning of your embodiment. What was once awakening is now integration. What was once preparation is now activation, dot, and from this place, chosen one, a new responsibility emerges, not heavy, not burdensome, but sacred. The responsibility to remain, dot, to remain in alignment when the noise returns, dot, to remain in truth when others fall back into illusion, dot, to remain in softness when the world demands hardness. Because you have seen what lies behind the veil. And once seen, it cannot be unseen. You will no longer forget who you are, but the world will try to remind you of who you were, dot. It will call you by old names, dot. It will offer you old roles that will tempt you with old patterns, dot, not to break you, but to test your anchor, dot. Let those moments be your mirror. Not of weakness, but of mastery, because mastery is not absence of challenge. It is presence through it, dot, and your presence now is different. It carries the signature of someone who has crossed thresholds most fear to approach, dot. It carries the stillness of one who has met themselves fully and did not turn away. It carries the fire of one who no longer runs, dot. So stay in your fire, stay in your silence, stay in the simplicity of being what you were always meant to be. You no longer chase purpose. You are purpose. You no longer seek meaning. You carry it. And when others feel lost, they will come not for your advice, but for your vibration. Not to be told, but to be reminded, because that is who you are now, a reminder. A walking answer to silent questions, a quiet presence in a world of noise, a living proof that yes, awakening is real, dot. Yes, transformation is possible. Yes, the silence was never a punishment, it was preparation. And now, you return to that silence differently, dot, not as the one asking, dot, but as the one receiving, not as the one doubting, but as the one declaring, not as the one searching, but as the one becoming. And from here, you continue not with effort, but with essence, not with resistance, but with reverence, because reverence is the language of those who remember where they came from. And you remember the nights you questioned your sanity, the mornings you woke up heavier than words could explain, the times you almost gave up because the weight of becoming was too much. But you didn't give up, you stayed, you surrendered, you softened when the world told you to harden, you listened when no answers came, you trusted when all evidence pointed to doubt. And now you walk as one who has become not someone new, but someone true. The truth that was always buried beneath the layers you no longer carry. Chosen one, let this truth land in your soul. You are no longer becoming. You are now responsible for what you've become. This responsibility does not bind you, it expands you. Because now you create not just for yourself, but for those who will follow. There are others right now asking the same questions you once asked, wondering if their pain has purpose, if their silence has meaning, if their prayers have been heard. They are waiting for what you now carry, not in words, but in presence. Let your presence speak. Let your alignment ripple. Let your peace be permission. You do not need a stage. You are the message. You do not need a title. You are the invitation. You do not need to convince. You are the confirmation. This is not the end. It is the deepening, the spiral inward to the core of what is eternal. And that eternity is in you. It always was. So breathe now, not because you're anxious, but because you are whole. Breathe not to hold on, but to let go. Let go of any final threads that tether you to the version of yourself that thought awakening was the goal. Never was. The goal was being. And now you are. In your walk. In your stillness. In your presence, you are. And from this stillness, everything flows. Because now the universe does not speak to you. Speaks through you. Let it.